Could someone try talking in a microphone?
Test.
I think it's going now.
Test 1, 2,
Um,
test.
Does anybody have anybody that's?
Yeah.
No.
Well, there's a 40-second delay or something.
I'm told it's working.
Okay.
All right. Anyone wishing to address the council, step to the podium, state your name and address and your business. Please keep it to 5 minutes or under.
Good evening. Mike Miller, HR Coordinator. I was asked to read the employee letter to council tonight on behalf of all the city employees. I'll apologize in advance. I'm dealing with some allergies, have a cough drop in, so here we go. To the members of the Carthage City Council, we, the undersigned employees of the city of Carthage, submit this letter to express our unanimous support for our department heads, including the mayor, city administrator, assistant city administrator, and city attorney. This declaration of support is presented voluntarily by each of us without any coercion and reflects our honest and professional opinions based on our experiences within the city administration. After careful consideration, particularly considering discussions and presentations at the last two council meetings, we feel compelled to affirm that at no point have we observed or been a part of any actions or decisions that were illegal, unethical, or contrary to the interest of the citizens of Carthage. And again, the state auditor confirmed that today. Each decision and policy enactment we have witnessed has been conducted with the utmost integrity and with the best intentions for the city's welfare. However, we do feel that multiple council members have recently violated the city ethics ordinance by contacting city staff to notify them that their job is safe for now, by requesting police employees to report to the council meeting to answer questions about an active police investigation, and for requesting the removal of city staff members without cause. There have been allegations of mistrust in the mayor, city administrator, and city attorney. We would like to state that our mistrust currently lies with the council members who are attempting to remove city leaders without providing any evidence of wrongdoing. These actions have led to many city employees being fearful of their employment if a precedent is set of removing employees without cause. To be clear, we fully support Mayor Rife, City Administrator Greg Dagnan, and City Attorney Nate Daly, and have no mistrust in them as city leaders and city staff members. Excuse me. We are not hostages of this current administration, but rather employees who enjoy working together under their leadership. Due to this mistrust in most of the city council, we are on the verge of losing multiple employees to other organizations. While these positions can eventually be replaced, you cannot replace the many years of knowledge, experience, and dedication that these employees have. Our organization has operated more efficiently and productively in the last 2 years than it ever has in recent memory. We feel that your actions will lead to a drop in employee morale, which it already has, a halt of important city projects, and a decrease in efficiency and productivity. We believe that the leadership and guidance provided by our department heads have been exemplary and in full alignment with the city's codes and ethical standards. The allegations or implications of misconduct discussed in recent meetings do not reflect the reality of our day-to-day operations and the transparent governance we are a part of. We believe that certain council members are using their elected positions to push a personal agenda that is not in the best interest of the city employees or the citizens of Carthage. The personal agenda of the group appears to align with one particular family member of the newly appointed council. We understand that the council members pushing this agenda were elected by registered voters of the city of Carthage, but we believe that the city employees should have a voice in the matter. We work here, most of us live here, and we certainly pay taxes here. We stand ready to continue our duties, excuse me, to collaborate on all fronts and to uphold the high standards set forth by our city's founders and continued by the current leadership. Please accept this letter as a vote of no confidence in the 7 council members who have voted to remove our mayor, city administrator, and city attorney by every undersigned employee. Thank you for considering our collective viewpoint. And this letter, as you guys can see, signed by 69 city employees. That does not include the fire department. As most of you know, they had their own letter. I will also add, with confidence, the great thing about that is it can be renewed simply by doing the right thing. I do find it concerning that the only council member who had any comment at all about our employee letter simply said employees aren't involved. If we weren't involved and it didn't affect us, why are there 30 of us sitting out in the crowd right now? Thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Charlie. I reside at 1707 Grand Avenue. I am an employee of City of Carthage as the Events and Recreation Coordinator. I am here today to express a deep concern regarding recent events during council proceedings that have left many of us in the city deeply troubled. Specifically, I wish to draw attention to the lack of interest in seeking information to make informed decisions and alarming attempts to remove city staff without due process or justification. There have been troubling attempts to remove city staff without adequate explanation or justification. As individuals who have dedicated ourselves to serving the city, we deserve to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. Any attempts in removing staff should be based on clear evidence of wrongdoing and should be carried out with accordance to the established procedures and processes. Furthermore, during council meetings, opportunities have been presented to provide valuable information that could aid in making more educated decisions. Unfortunately, it appears that the opportunities have been largely disregarded, with little interest shown by most council members in seeking out the information necessary to make well-informed decisions. It's been deeply concerning to witness the council move forward with such actions without giving proper consideration to the facts or engaging meaningful dialogue with those directly affected. Such behavior not only undermines the trust and confidence with the city staff, but also erodes public trust in the city council's ability to govern fairly and responsibly. I urge the council to reconsider its approach and prioritize transparency, accountability, and fairness in all dealings with city staff. This includes seeking out relevant information to make well-informed decisions, treating staff with respect and dignity, and adhering to established procedures and due process in all matters related to staff employment. I want to thank you for considering my concerns, and I trust that you all take the necessary steps to ensure all decisions are made by the council that are based on a foundation of fairness, transparency, and respect for all individuals.
Hello, my name is Bill Smith. I reside at 10137 Fur Road. I work at the Public Works Department. My fellow city employees and I are the engine of this vehicle called Carthage. We keep it running. We maintain its roads, its parks, we protect its citizens and their property, and we help them in times of need or personal disaster. You, as council members, are a portion of the steering mechanism of this vehicle, and for some time now, the large majority of the parts of this engine do not like where they are being steered. That's not to say that the engine will voluntarily quit running, because it is our job to keep running in all of our various ways. But we certainly do not approve of the direction that the council majority is attempting to take us. Already, some engine parts are failing, as evidenced by recent resignations. I think all of us can agree that we would hate to see it reach the point where enough parts fail that it creates serious engine performance issues. I think I can confidently speak on behalf of my fellow city employees in saying that none of us ever want to see that point reached. A council person was recently quoted as saying that the only way the city can move forward is to terminate Greg Dagnan. That is absolutely not true. There are obviously multiple paths to move forward. A couple of meetings ago, a council person asked the simple question of why. What has Mr. Dagnan done to deserve to be terminated? No one could offer a reason. Eventually, that council person that asked the question was instead chided for not paying closer attention to previous meetings. But no articulable, valid reason had ever been given. One meeting ago, when pressed again, an extremely ambiguous, quote, loss of trust was given as a reason. It will take far more than that to ever convince me that it has become necessary for a highly capable, highly trained city leader to be terminated. If there is a trust issue and Mr. Dagnan has done nothing wrong or illegal, then the trust issue is on each of you. It would seem that the best course of action going forward would be to have discussions, resolve those trust issues, and move forward together for the good of the city. Not this nuclear option that you, the council majority, seem so hell-bent on seeing through. I could go on for much longer, but this should hopefully drive home my point, which is that I, and evidently the large majority of my coworkers, fully trust Mr. Dagnan, Mr. Daly, and Mayor Reif. There is indeed a lack of trust on my part, but at this point, my lack of trust and my lack of faith is in you, the council majority, not these men. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jen Kirby, Tourism Director for the City of Carthage. I'm speaking tonight because my heart aches for this city. A city I love dearly. A city that has felt my blood, sweat, and tears as I've planted flowers, pulled weeds, planned events, marketed new and unique ways to create awareness of this beautiful place, and shared life with those who live here and work here. The majority of my waking hours are spent on planning, creating, and designing ways to grow and promote Carthage. When you are passionate about what you do, it shows. It shows through your work product, in your conversations, in your partnerships. I have to tell you, the team that is currently in place is a rock star team, dedicated to growth, teamwork, learning, and adapting. We work together, we support each other, we consult each other, all for the betterment of Carthage. There's a track record with this team. Those of you watching, I encourage you to dig in. Take a look at the council minutes, check out the projects that have been completed and the grants that were awarded over the last couple of years, each one creating growth and opportunity for Carthage. Why would there be a reason or cause to dismantle a team so quickly? What about understanding the functionality and inner workings of the departments? What about talking to your key leaders? To those elected, what is your vision for the city? What does our future hold? Right now, we keep hearing from you, just do your job. If you're doing your job, then you're probably not in jeopardy. How can we? Since last Tuesday, there have been 3 meetings with the sole purpose of dismantling our leadership. We are at a standstill. And what does the aftermath look like? What if we lose all of our amazing talent? What then? All of Carthage will be impacted. I do not feel safe, and I'm doing my job well. By the end of June, over 8.7 million people will be exposed to Carthage. I've also promoted this community in a variety of capacities. Will this matter? Will my work product matter? Or will I have spoken, so now I must be hushed? Or will I be friends with the wrong person or on the wrong side? You have a team of people right now who are dedicating their lives to work for and improve Carthage. The talent you currently have is a gift to be cherished. Some of your leaders have spent the majority of their adult life giving to this community. I encourage you to take time to talk with us. See what's going on, especially those watching and in the community. It is hard to not think about that day on July 5th, 1861, when lines were formed and guns were drawn. A day that divided not only this community, but our entire nation. A divide that feels so prevalent today. However, today we do not have guns as our ammunition, but words. And lines are definitely drawn, so much so that when I took this position, I was told that people looked at me differently now. And I was confused. How could that be so? I'm the same person, and I had the same love for this city. But for some reason now I was different. I was an outcast. Why? I did nothing to earn this new designation. The thought that you must be on the same side, or in other words, to think the same way, to have value, is small-minded. Diverse thought and conflict, when properly executed, create growth. It is wise to have counsel from those who think differently than you. They give you new perspective. We can disagree and still love. We can disagree and still be respectful. What I've watched over the past year hurts my heart. I must ask, how many casualties will we have, and to what end? To those watching, I encourage you to pray for Carthage. I encourage you to seek out truth from the source. I encourage you to get involved and ask questions. Your thoughts, your ideas, they matter. 50 to 60 years from now, many of us will no longer be on this earth. What then? What type of groundwork did we lay for the future generations? What are we currently teaching our children as they watch the leadership of the city play out? I usually bring my kids with me. I chose not to expose them tonight. Tonight I chose to speak knowing that speaking may place a target on me. It is a scary position to be in. I love my job, and I love the people of this community, and I love this community. I know that I am not the only one who feels this way. What I do know is that no matter what, I should not live in fear. And I have a voice, and to not speak would be passively sitting on the sidelines. Those of you sitting in the audience and watching online, you have a voice too. Don't let fear stop you from speaking up and digging in. I also encourage you to pay attention to these meetings and review the agendas. You have a voice. Show up to meetings, speak your thoughts, or call your city council members. Your voice matters. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Abby Almendinger. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Carthage. And I wanted to share a few things tonight going back several years prior to me having the job that I do now as the Parks Director. Even before I was the Executive Director of Vision Carthage, I attended every single committee meeting for several years. I was quite literally the only person in the community who knew the inner workings of our city government without being a city employee. Often people would call me to find out what was happening inside the city. Once I became the Executive Director of Vision Carthage, I regularly worked on projects with 3 of the 4 department heads. At the time, our city administrator was Tom Short. I was increasingly frustrated with Mr. Short as I felt he was secretive and withholding information, which I personally witnessed multiple times. One time specifically, I simply asked him for a copy of the budget, which is public record, and he refused to give it to me, just as one example. In referencing Mr. Snow's answer to Ms. Lease from the other night when she asked for examples about what Mr. Dagnan has done wrong, Mr. Snow pointed to the CVB, stating that Mr. Dagnan said that Ms. Myers had embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars and that an outside party investigated it. Mr. Snow said, and I quote, "Come to find out, it was a few $1,000s and there were no charges that I'm aware of," end quote. Ms. Myers is currently awaiting trial in October for stealing roughly $8,500 of taxpayer money. So the way I'm understanding what Mr. Snow said is that he condones stealing from taxpayers if it's only a few $1,000s. In reality, Mr. Dagnan actually did the right thing by turning Ms. Myers in. And in fact, not only did he do the right thing, they took it all the way out to the highway patrol due to conflicts of interest so that there was no question that it was done properly. I'm not sure how Mr. Dagnan should be blamed for wrongdoing when discovering that Ms. Myers embezzled money. In a normal world, he would be lauded by our community. In this alternate reality, he is somehow untrustworthy because he was incorrect on the exact amount of money that she stole. At the time, Ms. Myers was one of my best friends, and I was extremely upset about the whole situation. When Greg asked me if I trusted him, I flat out told him that I didn't know at the time. Obviously, I figured out pretty quickly that Greg was trustworthy, and I can assure you I would never have taken this job if I didn't trust him. I'm also aware that about 15 years ago, Mr. Dagnan discovered another city employee who was also stealing money. She pled guilty in 2011 to stealing nearly $65,000. As she was one of the most well-liked city employees at that time, can you imagine the moral choice of having to move forward with investigating her? And yet, he did the right thing at that time too. Lastly, I wanted to reference Ms. Cossey's comments about city employees being worried about their jobs. Ms. Cossey stated at the last council meeting, and I quote, "If you are a city employee and you are doing your job and you're not doing anything wrong, no one is after your job," end quote. And yet what you tried to do at the last council meeting was change the meaning of the word "and." Ms. Cossey said this action is about certain persons who have caused distrust in the city, and we don't see a path forward with those people in their positions. How about now? There have still been no allegations of wrongdoing by Mr. Dagnan. Last Thursday night, Mr. Snow reiterated to Mr. Taylor that Mr. Dagnan has not done anything illegal. So employees are afraid for their jobs because of a council trying to fire someone who has done nothing wrong. Additionally, the Missouri State Auditor sent an investigative summary and makes a thorough case that there is no wrongdoing on the part of the city. Once I became the Parks Director, I quickly realized that Mr. Dagnan was far more transparent than the previous administrator had ever been. He helped the council understand the budget in a way everyone could grasp, and he put together the best team of people that this city has ever seen. We are accomplishing more for the city now than ever before, thanks to Greg's leadership. Thank you.
Michael Keith, 1502 South Garrison. Mayor, I've come before you today as a citizen, a constituent of Ward 5, which means you two, and an employee of the city. I would like to express my thoughts and concerns about a few things. Most of what I wanted to talk about, everybody else has covered, and far more eloquently than I can. The few things I want to say. Ms. Lees, I would like to thank you. Your genuine commitment to the city and your responsibility as a council person by asking needed questions and not forsaking your duties to blindly further an agenda that started many, many months ago. Wasn't a proper sentence, but I'm sorry. Not only do you have my thanks, but you also have the thanks of many citizens as well as many city employees. It takes courage to do what you have been doing, especially given the ridicule that you have already received. Please don't let the poor manners and inexcusable behavior of some of the citizens that attend council meetings to be a reflection on the rest of us. Mr. Taylor, who's not here, I'll still read it. I would like to thank you for you and your support of the city's employees. I have personally seen your kindness and concern in action, and it does not go unnoticed. The last thing I want to say is to the other 7 members of this council that have clearly and unequivocally put forth their support for an agenda that originated outside of any council, past or present. I do not thank any of you. In fact, you have lost any respect I might have once had for you, and I unequivocally condemn your actions. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Danae Sardella, and I work for the Carthage Municipal Court as the court clerk. I was lucky enough to move to Carthage this past October, so I officially am a Carthaginian. My family lives here with me. I've worked in Carthage for just under 10 years and for the city for just under 2. I am lucky to not only have coworkers that I respect, but that I now consider friends. Coming into this position, I knew no one here personally. I had no bias or favoritism towards any employees, administrators, or city council members. Like a lot of people in this room, I was uninformed about the day in and day out of all the different city offices. But working in the municipal court, I have learned a lot and get to work with our city attorney, Mr. Dowley, on almost a daily basis. And I have learned how lucky we are to have an attorney of his caliber and experience. He is not only our city attorney, but he is also our prosecuting attorney for court. Without him, I fear that our court will disintegrate rapidly. He is a vital part of our success in accepting and filtering tickets, working with attorneys on pleas, and ensuring speedy trials. Now that you have bullied him out, I hope you understand the consequences that not only we as employees will have to pick up the pieces, but the Carthage citizens that will see no repercussions for defendants that have broken the law because there is no prosecutor to try them. I do not appreciate council members or anyone else speaking on behalf of me or other city employees without our permission. I do not, nor have I ever felt like a hostage in my job. I am lucky to have my job and to work for the amazing administration we have. Until now, I have never had the nerve to speak in fear of retaliation for not going with the flow and possibly losing my job. But there comes a time when enough is enough. I have to be willing to stand up here and speak the truth because there are so many here that can't or won't. I expect more from our council to not only represent the barely more than 50% that voted a lot of you into office, but the barely less than 50% that didn't. When I hear council members imply that they were unable to vote the way they truly wanted to because they were afraid to go against the other council members, it only solidifies that you don't deserve to represent us. Anyone here can look at voting records and see how you voted on past issues, and that a lot of these issues that you have made, that have made their way into social media, are issues you yourself voted to approve. If you don't have the backbone to stick to your beliefs and vote the way you want, how can we expect you to truly represent our wishes and vote on our behalf? Our votes are for someone to stand up for themselves and us, not just to be a mouthpiece or puppet for other people in this room. I have seen firsthand at council meetings where council members berate others for not understanding what is being motioned simply because they don't seem to have the same insider information a lot of you do. Or saying that they don't let people put words in their mouth and that they think for themselves while having council members lean over and tell them to second a motion. It looks a lot like a conspiracy to pass hidden agendas to those of us that aren't invited to these secret meetings, but just have to wait for the next motion to pass to take away our rights to freedom of speech. The only reason I can see that the council would want to silence employees from speaking on public forums is that they are afraid of what we will say. And the only reason to be afraid of what we would say is that unlike a lot of Carthage citizens that don't have all the facts, we do. And we can back up everything we are saying with documentation and evidence. We can agree to disagree with differing opinions, but you can't dispute facts, numbers, votes. You can only pull the wool over people's eyes for so long, and I believe that that is where we are getting to now. People are starting to watch how city council is voting, how a majority of council seems to be all on the same page and not need a discussion before they appear to have decided long before the public meetings in private, and how council is berating and talking down to other council members, department heads, city administrator, city attorney, and our mayor. There is nothing in this room that can't be voted on with respect and professionalism. But these meetings have turned into a circus, with council members performing for the audience and making jokes about endless lists of motions. This just goes to show how important the video and voice recordings of city council meetings are. Everyone in this room is for transparency, and some of you even got elected on the platform for it. So I don't see why everyone can't be in agreement that the more our fellow citizens can be informed, the better it is for everyone. It is great to have a room full of people, but it still limits those with small children, disabilities, or health risks that are unable to come in person, but still deserve to know what's going on. Most of us in this room live, work, and/or visit Carthage daily. We only want the best for our city, and I don't think we can downplay all the amazing changes and growth from the last few years by removing all the employees, administration that have worked so hard to get us here. Moving forward, I hope we can all truly move forward. We have wasted how many meetings arguing and threatening to fire or remove people and not getting to work towards improving our great city. Once we move past all the petty arguing and backroom meetings, I truly believe that we can get back on track and start thriving. Thank you.
I'm not a city employee. My name's Karen Trotter. I live at 615 Euclid Boulevard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Again, not a city employee. I just want to start my comments with a couple of numbers. 15,400 people. That's how many people live within the city limits of Carthage. 31% of those are under the age of 18. 35% of those, almost 5,400, are living at the poverty level. Those are just numbers. You can find them on the US Census. If an old lady like me can find it, y'all can find it. Next, I want to say thanks to some of the department heads. I can't really look at you and keep the mic, so just know I'm talking to all of you. Ms. Almendinger, thank you for all the work you've done over the last year and a half. It is my understanding that the upgrades to the park originated at a public meeting held a few years ago. This meeting was attended by citizens, maybe some in this room, and the Parks Department head and several consultants. After the ideas were presented, the Parks Department head then, Mr. Peterson, put together a parks plan which was implemented. The ideas were sound, the plan was awesome, and the implementation has been amazing. These upgrades have benefited all the citizens. The poverty level people who can't travel and pay admission fees can go to some really awesome parks right here in town for their kids to be safe. Mr. Huntley and Mr. Hawkins are first responders. Mr. Huntley has served on the city fire department for over 20 years. I believe Mr. Hawkins has served the police department for over 40. These two departments work 24/7. They're on call all the time. You guys need to help them and support them. They support our city. If you have never worked in one of those departments, you do not know the intensity of the care that they give to that 15,400 people. There's not enough thanks for you guys and your departments. Mr. Carney, who's been with the city 22 years, I had some experience working with some building permits early on when I moved here. His people were gracious, respectful, and even though I didn't fully understand the process, treated me kindly. Mr. Dowley, I am sorry you are leaving. I think you are a fine man. You have done a hard job. You have served our city for 17 years. Long hours and a workload. I wish you all the best. I wish you were staying. Mr. Mayor, you were sitting in city council when I very first came to a city council meeting. I believe you've had 3 terms in as city council and 2 terms elected as mayor. So I want to offer my continued support. Mr. Dagnan, I don't know if you remember the very first situation where you and I had some contact. I remember it. You handled that situation calmly, stating clearly what needed to happen, responding in a respectful manner, and your calm demeanor over the 16 years that you have served this city has been remarkable. I applaud your honesty, your integrity, and your continued service. So, Mr. Mayor, I do not agree with you being removed from office. I do not agree that this is being handled appropriately. People elected you. People get to say. And now I'm going back to those brief few numbers quickly. 15,400 residents living in our city. 36%, about 5,400 people living at the poverty level. 31% under the age of 18. However, 55% of those people, poverty level. 949 votes elected the new council members. I only want to address one council member briefly before I'm done. Dr. Barlow, your education, your experience, the opportunity that you've had to see what it's like for our families to live at the poverty level, it's amazing. You have so much to give to the rest of the council to help them understand what those people really need, those people living at poverty level. I really hope that you're able to really go forward with that and encourage them to work with our departments who support so many of those people in so many ways. So thank you for serving. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Heather Orschlin, and I live part-time at 522 Euclid in Carthage, and I really am just here to voice my concern as a citizen, but also mostly as a small business owner in Carthage. I've owned a business here for 12 years, right at the Fur Road exit. It's Revel Boutique, right in the Peachtree Edition. And I guess why I'm really wanting to reach out to I know I'm facing the city council, so I am talking to you, and you all have your own supporters. You each have, I mean, you can't get on Facebook and not know who's supporting who. I mean, that's not a joke here, even though no one's mentioned it. We've all seen it, if you get on there at all. So I know everyone has supporters, and I think that's great. That's how we get through life. You have your family, you have your church, you have your people that support you. But I think what is my biggest concern is I've lived here 51 years, my entire life. I chose to build my business here, and I'll be honest, I would thrive more if I build it in Joplin. It's a bigger community, but I build it here because I love Carthage. That's where I'm from. And I am sad by what I'm seeing happen. My motto for how I run my business is really how I perceive what's happening here in our city. My motto I teach my employees, I talk about all the time, is community over competition. I think that it is so important. It's us, Carthage, against Joplin and Webb City and Carl Junction and Northwest Arkansas and Springfield and all the little places there are to go spend your tax dollar and visit. It's us against them. It's drawing people to want to live here, work here, contribute here, bring their kids, go to your parks, all of your things. That's what matters. That's why you were elected. I have respect for all the people that work for the city, but I'll be honest, when I went to vote, no offense, but I wasn't thinking about you and your job. I was thinking about me and my community and my business and who's best for that, because it is a hard economy right now. So what I want you to think about is 85% of my business is not Carthage people. It's not those 15,400 people. I draw business off of the highway from over 25 plus communities. Today, I helped women came in little groups to shop from Purdy, Mount Vernon, Neosho, Lamar, and Joplin. Those were the groups of women that came in my store today. And I pride myself on the fact, and I always say, are y'all going to lunch? Where are you gonna eat? Have you been to the Pie Safe? Woo, it's Thursday, they're open. Or have you been to the Woodshed? Or where are you eating? What are you doing? I love my community. I send everyone, I try to get them to go in town. If they're too old to understand GPS, I make a Post-it note and I write the exact address of All Things Grand or wherever I'm trying to send them to go. That's what you do when you love your town. I encourage you and everyone in the audience, get off Facebook. We voted. The numbers came in. You had your chance to vote. I love and respect people on both sides of the issue. I've known people on both sides of the issue my whole life. I respect all of them, but we've had elections here for 50 years. There's winners and losers every time. So give the people that won a chance. We never agree with everything everyone does. Let's see how it pans out, but let's try to do some positive. Like, I don't even want to get on social media anymore. I'm embarrassed that when people come in my store, they don't want to talk about when does Food Truck Friday start? They don't ask me anymore, are you having the skating rink downtown anymore? Are you doing the lights in the park? All the things that I brag about my town, instead they want to say, what do you know about the shit going on Facebook? That's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed right now that I am from Carthage, Missouri. I'm embarrassed that my business is located here. And shame on all of you. Shame on both sides. Shame on every person on Facebook. Teach your children and talk about it at church. I just encourage you to look for something positive. When does Food Truck Friday start? Let's try to, we're not gonna solve everything. You can fight and squabble all you want, but the bottom line is we all live here, we all love Carthage, we all chose this town to raise our kids and have our businesses and pick our home. That's what matters. Look for something positive. I encourage you, if nothing else in the next week, post one good thing on Facebook. Make one positive comment. Tell someone you know about something great to do at Carthage, because I want to keep my business here. I love Carthage, and I love most of the people in this room, and I hope you all figure it out.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Bill Putnam. I live at 624 Bel Air. And first, this is the first time, excuse me, I've been out of town since the election, and I wish to congratulate all 5 of the newly elected council persons. I'm sure all citizens join me in thanking you for taking on this important service to Carthage. I believe, excuse me, I believe that all of my appearances before the council have been in my capacity as a concerned private citizen. But tonight I wish to make a few comments as the chair of Carthage Citizens United in order to correct some misconceptions that have recently been posted on Facebook. Thank you, Heather. Number 1, CCU's stated and only purpose is to encourage qualified, intelligent, concerned citizens to run for public office, primarily in Carthage city government. Number 2, CCU did not engage in an effort to recall council members. That allegation was made last week, I think. That effort took place in July, August of 2023, and the Carthage Citizens United PAC was not organized until October 20th of 2023. It is true that some folks involved in the recall effort later became supporters of CCU, which I am told did not fail, but was terminated when it was determined that the earliest feasible recall election would be the same date as the April city election. Number 3, when deciding which candidates to support for city council in 2024, CCU asked all candidates to answer the same questions regarding fiscal responsibility, accountability, transparency, and ethical behavior. Candidates were endorsed based on their answers and personal interviews. Number 4, no candidates were ever asked if they supported the removal of any city official, and CCU would never tell any council member how to vote, as it is their job to determine the best interests of Carthage citizens. I do believe all of the newly elected council persons are actively seeking input from their constituents, and that's important. Number 5, the claim that the election is somehow in question because only 14% of the registered voters voted is simply hogwash. The fact is that 30% more folks voted in 2024 than in the mayoral election in 2022, which was decided by only 15 votes. Number 6, CCU has never discussed retribution against Mr. Dagnan for actions against any former city employee. That allegation is simply untrue. Number 7, while CCU may have blocked critics in the early stages of organization on Facebook, we quickly realized that that was wrong and have not blocked any comments for several months. Number 8, and lastly, I also wish to assure city employees, many of you are here this evening, in the various departments, including the department heads, CCU has never even discussed the performance of those city employees and would never advocate the removal of any of you. Job performance is the responsibility of the department heads. Carthage Citizens United focus is on qualified council members and city officials. We plan to be active again in 2025 and in many elections to come. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on to mayor's report. Going to be pretty short despite all the other current events. It's still budget time, so that's taking a lot of time for all staff and meetings to come on that as well. So it's that time of year. We will move on to reporter remarks of council members. Please keep it to 2 minutes if possible. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to say I really appreciate the robust public discussion tonight and views from all sides. Because it was mentioned, I would like to state that because my father is in pending litigation, I won't speak to the substance of any of those for legal reasons, but I would like to state for certain and to on the record publicly that to assert that I have been influenced by any outside person, family member, group, etc., in my drive and determination to make our city better, which I think we're all here for, it saddens me because I personally, that's, an affront to my integrity, and I'm disheartened to hear that. But I would like to state for everyone here that I'm no CCU, not my father. I ran for city council, or intended to run to city council long before my family even moved back here. We're living in Little Rock, Arkansas. So that was long before any of the issues we're discussing here tonight, for anything regarding any other matter. That's always been my determination. And then finally, I'd like to mention regarding the city employees, I have no adverse inclination towards city employees. I think our recent storm and what we all saw with that is a perfect example of, the great growth and great employees we have. So I have no agenda towards, cleaning house or stripping jobs. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Lee?
Thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts. And of course, this week I've had thoughts on both sides from different people. And I've really done my best and done my due diligence in trying to watch every meeting and learn everything I can. And my whole thing boiled down to the reasons that I voted the way I voted at this point is because I don't see evidence of that. I mean, I see here lack of faith, lack of trust, and so do we just go around and say, we don't trust you anymore, you're out of here? That's not what we're about. And I think that we could all, this whole team, all of us in this room, this city, if we all started working together completely from this step forward, I believe in my heart, because I've seen God do big things, that we could redeem things and we could all press restart and we could do this. And I know some people laughed at me the night I said that, but I'm very serious. We have people in this room that love, on both sides, that love this community and are doing what their heart says. So I'm urging all of us, to work together and try to build that community that we are so proud of and that we do love.
Thank you. Ms. Heckmaster?
I would like to thank everyone that spoke tonight. City employees, I appreciate your point of view and I will carefully consider it. I would ask that as we move forward, that we treat each other with respect, that we're courteous, and that we're kind. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
I would also like to thank everybody that spoke this evening. I would also like to reiterate that I ran for council back in 2020 unsuccessfully. I learned a lot of valuable lessons in that campaign. But ultimately, my desire is to serve the citizens of Ward 3. I truly want to improve Carthage in any way that I can in whatever capacity that may be. I also would like to mention that my campaign was never based upon cleaning house, and I have no personal agenda, no opportunity for personal gain in this position. So truly, I'm here as a servant and looking forward to serving Ward 3 in the future. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right,
Your
thank you.
Honor, may I have a do-over? There's something else I wanted to share.
Sure.
Nate, I wish you well. That's all. Thank you.
All right.
Can I have a slight do-over? I do want to publicly thank Nate. I emailed him with a question this morning. He jumped right on it, got me an answer. So thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Mr. Snow?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to say that many times in this seat, I have said everyone has the right to come up and speak, and I don't feel like anyone that came up and spoke tonight did not have the right to say what they said. I will say, though, that I am very concerned with how we move forward now, because the message that I heard is that they do not trust this body. We're getting ready to go through a process that we have to budget the city's money. And if we are going to have to answer every decision that we make in that budget, because we're going to have to cut things. I can tell everyone today, right now, we don't have enough money to fund everything that we are expecting to budget for this year coming up. So I am going to go forward. I'm going to make the decisions that I feel are best for the people who I represent, and I am going to put forth a budget that I do not have any fear of anyone questioning what I did. I will explain the reason, but I will not budget items in the budget out of fear that somebody's going to come up and speak at that microphone in front of us. So to think that it's going to be easier, we're going to be able to work pass this is, in my opinion, going to be very difficult. A year ago, we had this same issue with our water and electric employees coming up to that microphone and only asking that we don't freeze their wages. And we were told on the council, they don't have a right to come up and say that. All I'm saying is, anybody that wants to come up to that microphone has 5 minutes to speak. I have fought for right to free speech in this seat multiple times, and I will continue to do that, but I will not sit in this seat in fear. So anybody that thinks that I'm gonna budget something because I don't want to hear what they have to say about it, I will differ. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alan.
Nothing.
Ms. Barlow?
No.
All right. Ms. Cossey?
Yep, and I will do my very best to keep it to 2 minutes. So the first thing I want to do actually doesn't have anything to do with what was said tonight. It's something that Ms. Lisa and I have addressed in private already, but if I make my mistakes in public, I correct them in public. And so actually, I correct myself again because some of you did mention it. The other night when Ms. Lisa asked questions, I did not handle that appropriately, and I apologize to Ms. Lisa, absolutely. Before she was brought onto the council, after, actually even before you were elected, because we knew that you were unopposed, you know, I reached out to Ms. Lisa. I said, it's very difficult. Starting on council, it's very difficult. You know, it's hard to learn. And then the first time she stands up there and really asks questions, I don't handle it appropriately. I come from a place of anger, and I apologize. And it is no excuse. It's probably from an entire year of fighting, being attacked, and often fighting with the person who's sitting exactly where you're sitting now. But in the future, I will keep in mind that when you're asking questions, you're asking them for the right reasons. I need to keep in mind you aren't attacking. And so I do apologize, absolutely, for that approach. What I do not apologize for is for the resolutions or for the votes that I made. I believe that they are in the best interest of the city. And this isn't addressing you, this is just addressing the public in general. I will also say, however, that as Mr. Snow alluded to, a year ago, we did have other city employees sitting exactly where you are. And they packed the house just exactly like you did. Actually, so much so that we had to have one of our meetings at Memorial Hall, and we had between 300 to 400 people there. And they were basically just asking, their salaries didn't get frozen. They came up and they spoke, and they tried to make sure that the city was doing the right thing, just with respect to making sure that we were treating them appropriately. And I can tell you, we had backlash from some of the people who we are addressing issues with, that they did not appreciate that the CWIP people came up and spoke. And so when you come tonight, I know you're not thinking kindly of me, you don't feel kindly toward me, and I understand it, but just like Mr. Snow said, I respect your right to come and speak. Everybody has a right to come and speak. And as I said the other night, and I'm going to reiterate it, I don't want any employee to fear for their job. That is never the intention. The issues that are being addressed here at the highest level are coming from a place of knowledge, or coming from a place of experience. And so one of the things you need to understand is that as city employees, you can't be terminated without cause unless for some reason a position is eliminated. The city administrator position is different. It is a special working relationship where the mayor and the council have to approve, and they have to be able to work with this person. And to be able to work with this person at the highest level, they have to be able to trust. Trust has been lost for a number of reasons, and so that is why that motion is made, and that's why I'm personally going to continue to support it.
Ms. Shrimp?
Today I had a conversation with a council person that was on council years ago, and they told me it was the highlight of their life. They're so proud of what they did. And I want to walk out of here after my term is done saying the exact same thing. I was voted in by the citizens. I've been listening to the citizens, and that's all I'm here for. This is not my seat. This belongs to you.
Move on to administrative reports. Mr. Dally.
Yes, sir. I think we've seen or at least some of you have seen at least that are sitting here, have seen the report from Mr. Fitzpatrick's office, the investigative summary regarding the long-awaited complaints to the Missouri State Auditor. So they addressed, it looks like 4 different areas as far as questions that came to them. And so it's important that we know where those stand. So they discussed the complaints that the Assistant City Administrator and City Administrator appointment process didn't follow Code 2-157, that the residency of the city was outside the city was not approved, that the salary was not passed by ordinance, and qualifications were not discussed by the council prior to hiring. That there was complaint that the CA's supervision of department heads was in violation of city code. City officials did not document personal decisions approved in closed session in the open meeting minutes or provide copies of employment contracts to the public. Sorry. When requested as far as the Sunshine Law goes. And so they said, and here's their answer. The Insurance Audit and Claims Committee created the ACA position, including the job class, development of job description, and increasing the budget to accommodate the creation of that position. The position was shown to report to the mayor, council, and city administrator. And in June of 2021, the council approved the job description for the position. And in July of 21, the council approved the mayor's appointment of a temporary ACA position. Was not considered a department head. And therefore, section 4.11, which requires an appointed position be established by ordinance, did not apply. The individual appointment appointed as ACA was subsequently appointed to the CA, meaning city administrator, had previously served Carthage for 15 years. The council unanimously approved the appointment of CA in April of 2022. While a discussion of qualifications of residency were not documented explicitly in the minutes, it is reasonable to believe that the council members were aware of this information when casting their votes, and the lack of discussion does not appear to violate the city charter or ordinances. Based on the information provided, no committee was created for the purpose of appointing the city administrator. The city attorney indicated in the 2000, now infamous 2000 packets, and meeting minutes support the ACA position was originally created with the idea that the individual would appointed to the CA upon the resignation of the former CA or his retirement. Position was developed by a committee that meets the requirements for appointing the CA. City Code 2-157 also requires the CA be appointed by the majority vote of the council with the approval of the mayor, and it appears this process did involve consideration by the committee and the council as a whole. The CA salary, the complaint CA salary was not in accordance with the city salary schedule, the CA salary was in accordance with the city salary schedule, which was outlined in the ordinance as required. The complainant contends that the failure to post the closed meetings of the CA's appointment was voted on and was a violation of 610.021 subsection 3 of RSMO. However, the statute only requires information be made available, does not require posting, and those closed meetings were provided upon request, and there is no violation of the Sunshine Law. In their review, they found city administrator supervision of department heads is not in violation of city code or city charter. Section 5.3 of the city charter states the CA positions shall assist the mayor and the city council in the conduct of city business. Further, section 2-161 of the city code outlines specific duties of the CA, including acting as liaison for the mayor between the department heads and the city council. The CA supervision of department heads appears to be within those responsibilities. The review of the mayor and city administrators that acted inappropriately or unethically in declining to approve grant applications that required matching funds from unallowable sources. The complaint indicates that the mayor and city administrator did not pursue a city park project as approved by city council, including purchase of property for a future park. The mayor and city administrator allegedly refused to sign necessary grant applications to complete the purchase after the city council approved that. So that was the allegation. There talks about the parks director pursued the purchase of a 254-acre parkland adjacent to a local landmark as part of fulfilling this plan, the Our Town, Our Time master plan. The land appraised at approximately $4.1 million. The negotiated price they provided was for the property was approximately $6 million. No information was provided by the city or complaints as to why the price was significantly higher than the appraised value. It does talk about the DED, which is the Department of Economic Development. The director recommended the city apply for the Community Revitalization Grant. This grant requires a 50% match that could be met with financial contributions and economic development. The mayor approved pursuing the process if it could be financed with outside funding. And then on September 27th of 22, the land proposal was presented to the city council in closed session meeting. The council voted to pursue the funding of this project from state and federal resources only. The Parks Director subsequently applied for the Community Revitalization Grant and listed local trust funding as part of the match. Our review noted that this trust is not a state or federal funding and would not comply with the council's directive. The city administrator notified the Parks Director that the mayor would not approve the grant. The investigative response indicates the mayor did not approve the application because there was no indication of qualified matching funds from federal or state entity that could match the city's portion of the require. This appears to be a reasonable reason for the denial of those parks funding project. I think it's important that we look back at our prior city council. Only Mr. Snow remains on here to find a lot of these things that were done by a previous council and support. At least it's good. Hindsight is a lot of time easier to look back on, and so when you have an outside agency look at things and can at least shed light on and look at what our prior council did and say that they did things okay, I think that's a good thing for the city. I don't think people should be disappointed that the auditor says, hey, your city did things correctly. That's a good thing. And even if you don't agree with them or agree with who was hired, it's still a good thing that we did things right and that our past council did things correctly. And so that shouldn't be something we like, oh, I wish they would have found something wrong. That's never something we should look at for the city and hope that they did something incorrect. I know there was some question, the last thing I've got, Mayor, regarding our city charter and the city code. And so we do have a listserv with attorneys, and I think people think that I just sit here on an island and make decisions and don't ask anybody for what they think of things as other municipal attorneys across the state. And so they can't necessarily give us legal advice because they represent other municipalities. I did put out what our charter language was as far as the service of the city administrator, as well as the 2 sections of our code, and asked what they thought, and I got 4 responses from other attorneys that says, as it stands now, the ordinance clearly requires the council to vote to terminate, and the mayor must concur. Unlike other cities, it does not appear that there's language allowing the council to terminate with a supermajority when the mayor does not concur, and that this person says that the ordinance and charter mean the same thing. There's another response from another city attorney in the southeast part of the state that said, I read it the same way. City attorney from up north, far north of here, a reasonable reading of the charter provision is that the city administrator's performance meets approval unless action is taken to remove. The code provision seems to harmonize with this interpretation and provides a method by which joint action can be taken to remove. The city charter provision itself is not self-enforcing and does not provide a removal mechanism. And another attorney from, all of these are larger cities than us that have full-time attorneys, concurs with that opinion. So I don't go into these things blindly when we look at stuff, and so we often ask each other for what other people have done in the past. And our language is different than other cities, as you can see. We don't have a supermajority on that position. And so there's not a lot of case law or any that I could find regarding that language. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Chief Hawkins.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just say to everyone here that I hope that we, all of us, as city leaders, can move forward from here, working together, and just make this the place to live that we all know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Chief Huntley.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Mr. Carney.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Ms. Almendinger,
I have nothing tonight, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Cox.
I actually do have.
Well, all right.
It's definitely apparent that these have been some very troubling times. I just want to say that we really do have a great team here, and we are very close, and so we're protective of each other. And just like you take things personally, they do as well. I work a lot on the budget. I put in a lot of hours. It's one of my biggest challenges of my job. And Alan, I've worked with Alan for many years on the budget, and I understand what he's saying, and I know that our department heads do get very protective of their requests, but we have kind of changed some of how the budget process goes, where they do prioritize their requests, and so we are somewhat respectful of that unless it's something that we just absolutely do not agree with. But at the end of the day, they've always been respectful of the wishes of the council, and they know that there are cuts. I mean, when you ask for over $6 million in capital projects, there's gonna be cuts when you only have, about $1.5 million to fund those projects. So we have to do some moving around and work with the priorities of the department. But I know that it is a tough decision to make on some of the cuts, but I truly feel that the respect of the department heads have in the process, that they will be understanding, and hopefully, we can do what's best for the community. I also want to say that I agree with Lori wholeheartedly. A lot of you have not worked with me, and so you don't know, a lot about me, just like I don't know a lot about you. However, I feel that I've always, one thing that is instilled in city clerks is that you serve at the pleasure of the mayor and the council. I work for Greg, and I respect that, and we work very well together, but I want to help in restoring the trust, and I want you to know that you have my word that I would never mislead anyone. I'm not gonna say that I'm perfect all the time, that I do make mistakes. I want there to continue to be transparency, and I want to help you. I always say I try and make everyone look good. I'm a good behind the scenes person to help, I want to help you guys, do things the right way as far as writing the ordinances and the resolutions and everything. So if you ever have any questions, please reach out to me, and I'll do my best to help you look good too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dagnan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our community servants wrote letters, and you saw them and heard them tonight. A large number of employees signed them, supporting them, and some spoke tonight, and a lot are here. And seeing them before they came up to give their speeches, and even seeing them as they were deciding if they were to sign the letters, it took a lot of courage, and I want to thank them for that. They are scared. They're scared for their jobs, and it took them a lot of courage. They mentioned my name in a lot of these letters, and that's humbling and honoring, but I want to tell you, they're not talking about me. I don't take credit for anything. The only credit that should be given is what's been accomplished by this outstanding team that we have at the city. These people who serve, work hard, and accomplished everything for the city are telling you tonight what they think is best for Carthage. I think it's time to listen to them. I think we can all start working together. I think we can move this community forward, and I think we need to get back to work and start serving our community like it deserves. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to new business.
Discuss law firm options for opinion on city administrator removal.
And actually, if I may, I know Miranda reached out to me by email yesterday afternoon, and I have not had a chance today to get back with her. I believe that specific item was for the 26th, where we were supposed to discuss those options. Tonight, I believe we were supposed to look at the contract for the litigation services of Paul Martin. He's the municipal attorney that will be handling the impeachment process.
I don't have anything. Do you have a contract?
I do. I brought about 50 copies, so I have enough for all of the council members and anybody who wants to see it.
So,
Are you running the mayor, or is Mr.
We-
Dagnan?
excuse me?
Well, I'm wondering, I mean, he's giving you directions from over there.
Tiffany, I think the charter says I'm the chief advisor to the mayor. I think it's okay for me to give him some advice.
I don't know that you get to speak out in city council. In any case, what would you like to say? Mr.
There's a
Mayor?
process for a council bill and for
Right.
contract, so
But
it needs to go
this-
through the budget.
This was on the agenda, this was part of.
That's fine, but it's still, in order to be voted on, still needs to go through that process.
Okay,
With the
well.
contract in hand, the budget committee can look at whether they're wanting to do a budget adjustment.
Well, then at this point, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second that.
Okay. So, well, I appreciate that. That's actually in Rosenberg's Rules of Order, which is something that we've adopted and agreed to proceed by. A motion to suspend the rules is actually something that you can do. So we've got a motion, and it's been seconded, I believe, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. Any discussion?
So the reason for what a motion to suspend the rules is, it means if we have an internal rule like the one that deals with procedure for council bills and for resolutions, it means that we can suspend that and move forward. I would actually like make that motion a little bit broader so that we suspend those rules for the next meeting as well, because the problem with the motion for the council, or the process for the council bill, is if you haven't read it, it goes through the mayor, and then it goes through the city, and I may have this order wrong. It goes through the mayor, the city attorney, and the city administrator, which, as you can imagine, with certain things is going to slow things down. And again, like tonight, when we had agreed to come and sign this contract to hire the law firm to handle the impeachment, we have someone who's attempting to slow that down. So that's why I'm making a motion to suspend the rules, which were only adopted by resolution, so that we can get this business done and move forward.
Except it's not on the agenda. That's the problem.
But it's a motion but it should have been. That's the problem. It was mistaken. So a mistake, unfortunately, by somebody who wrote the agenda doesn't mean that we didn't agree to talk about it. We made that motion in the other meeting, and that is supposed to be on the agenda tonight.
When was the agenda published, though? Last Friday? Or Monday? Yesterday? I mean,
But I reached out asking about the invitation.
Right, at about 3 o'clock.
that's the problem, though. It's got to be on the agenda for the sunshine law notice that we're required to have. I mean, it's not-
Well, except notice was given, it was mentioned in a public meeting before, and it should have been on the agenda.
Did nobody see the
Notice has
agenda
to
when
be-
it got posted?
Notice has to be posted.
Yeah, it's a
be
posted notice.
Verbal.
All right, so then I would like to make the motion that it please be put on the agenda as requested, this time for the next meeting on Tuesday.
What exactly would you like me to list on the agenda?
We need to approve the contract for the law firm that will be handling the impeachment.
Okay, because at the last meeting, we didn't have the contract.
Right,
We were
that's-
supposed to reach out to Paul Martin to even see if they would take this on.
Yes,
I never heard anything on it being
Right.
approved or them being hired. That's why that's not on the agenda, because I had nothing to put on the agenda.
But
I went strictly off of what was said on the last recording.
Right, so, but you're mistaken. I had reached out to Paul Martin. I did not have a contract in hand. That's what was supposed to be put on the agenda for tonight, was the signing of the contract. I was to bring it tonight so that we could sign it.
Okay, well, it also needs a council vote to go with.
Well, except for that's the motion that's on the table now, is to suspend the rules.
You know,
And suspending the rules would change how the council gets to council, but it still has to be a council.
It does,
To
but it
approve the
doesn't have to,
contract.
yeah, but it doesn't have to go through the process. It doesn't have to die on the desk of the mayor and then eventually get to
Well,
Mr. Dagnan,
I know that
eventually go
it's
to
not-
you.
I mean, we've talked those, he's not gonna stand in the way, he just needs a council bill. So we also have to budget somewhere along the way, the budget's gonna have to be amended or adjusted to allocate money. And at least the mayor knows that, and we just need to get it done, but it's gotta have a council bill for him to sign the contract.
But and I'm certainly able to come up with that. However, the budget amendment, I believe, is made once we have a bill. We don't have a bill yet for Mr. Martin, and we did vote to hire him and look into that and to bring a contract tonight. So
The contract needs a council bill.
right, and that's fine. I can. It would have been nice, I'm not exactly sure why somebody didn't mention that before, given that it's probably the city attorney's job, but it's.
You've never, I mean,
Right.
it does stop, because that's never been asked of me from you on this issue.
Well, I know,
And
but
every contract has to
but
get
you are
approved
the
by council.
advisor to the whole body, so I would have thought you would have mentioned that. However.
It's always been that way.
However, this isn't a discussion about that. This is a discussion to suspend the rules so that it doesn't have to go through the regular process, so that it doesn't have to go through the hands of the person that we're looking to impeach.
Go ahead, Tracy.
I know I'm not an attorney, but the reason that we have the council bill, it's a state thing, as far as have two readings of the council bill. Sometimes we do have emergencies when we suspend that second reading and read them both in the same evening, which is okay. The reason we have the two readings and at different meetings is because it gives the public time to see that, or, and if they want to come and speak on the issue. But either way, a council bill has to be published 24 hours before it's voted on.
Yes, and I agree. And I'm not motioning that we do away with that because that's state law. I believe that's the sunshine law, that it has to be posted so far in advance. But what my motion is that we suspend the rules on it going through the regular process, that we have a pretty tedious process outlined. And I'm sure you know it far better than I do, but when it goes through, it has to go through the mayor, the city attorney, the city administrator. These are all people who are looking to slow down the process, as evidenced tonight. So that's why I'm making a motion to suspend the rules, so that I'm happy to type up a council bill for you and get it to you in plenty of time for you to post it for that 24-hour notice. And my plan would be to get it to you in plenty of time for the office to comfortably have time to post it, so that it's not any undue stress on the city council or the city staff in order to get it posted. But I'd like to suspend those rules so that we can get this contract signed, so that we can get this process underway.
Yes, sir.
So whether anyone will listen to me or not, I don't know, but we did call MML and we got their advice on these matters. And for the record, here's what they said. They said that amending the agenda or suspending the rules during a meeting is very appropriate for something that is a minor procedure or an emergency that no one knew about. They say that, in order to be in compliance with the Sunshine Law and all other state laws and our city policies and procedures, that contracts must go through the procedure. They must be vetted by the proper city staff. They must have council bills, and they must have two readings. Now, they also pointed out that neither the staff nor the mayor should try to impede this, since it is part of an impeachment process. And I totally agree with that. So for the record, that is MML's advice, is that we follow the procedures, that we don't try to impede it. We just make sure that it follows the normal procedures that any council bill will follow. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. So once again, there is no suggestion that this should not go, that any council bill should not go through the two required readings. This is only a motion to suspend on the internal procedures, not to attempt to suspend state law requirements. And a motion to suspend is absolutely proper for internal requirements. That's what that is intended for.
You just need to outline what you're wanting to change.
All of these things are in place so that it does take a minute, so that you can have it legally vetted. All council bills have to be vetted, have to be approved. It goes to the committee so that 4 additional eyes can look at it. and then it comes back. So there's nobody trying to slow things down. It just is what it is. The process is slow.
Except for, in this case, there's already been a council vote to sign a contract. It's just that it didn't get put on the agenda, and we weren't advised that we needed a council bill. We put on the agenda to discuss it tonight. And so that's why I'm making a motion that we suspend the rules. They are just internal procedures, so that we can skip that process. We can get it on the agenda for the Tuesday night meeting, and we can have that signature without it going through that process.
Ms. Lees?
I'd have to go back and watch the meeting verbatim to find out, but I thought it was to pursue seeing if he would be willing to take it, not that we would be signing a contract tonight. But we would have to go back and rewatch that. And if we do just like say we want to, I know it's okay to do it. I know that, I understand that. But suspending rules, doing all of this, I think that we need to just really think how it's gonna look to everybody, everybody. And we just need to maybe take time, get it on the agenda properly and do it that way, my opinion.
Mr. Snow?
My question is, on MML's advice not to impede this, would we be able to have a council bill by next Tuesday night?
You typically, the process says you fill out a council bill request form explaining what you want. This would say a contract with Paul Martin, and then it would have the contract so we'd know what to put in the council bill. It takes 30 minutes, to draft it once we have the information. But, all contracts get approved by council bill. That's.
And would we have your word as officers of the city that you would not impede this and that it would be on Tuesday night's agenda?
If it gets through the process, I'm not going to slow anything down. And honestly, Nate, check me here, but if folks are more comfortable, we could have the mayor pro tem sign the contract instead of me, since it's
I would absolutely be more comfortable with that.
it's about me. So.
Yeah, signing the if that's fine, I can put in there that the mayor abstains, or however we'll word it, but in the council bill, who it's authorized to sign the contract. Doesn't change who votes on it, just who's gonna be authorized to sign that.
I have a question. So this council bill is being sponsored by the council, so it does not have to go through a committee and be discussed and voted on in a committee. So we won't have to wait for the next committee meeting for this to be, because this council bill is sponsored by the council. Am I correct on that? Because we've had council bills before.
We've had lots of council bills skip committees.
Did not go through a committee. So I'm asking, do we need to suspend the rule for that, or will we be able to just approve that?
I think that would be appropriate if you wanted to do that, to not go to committee and come straight to council. I can't remember the exact language in the order of business for the council bill, but I'm assuming, I can't remember if it that says the mayor shall send a committee, or if it can and then or send it to council. But either way, whatever.
I'm unsure on that wording also. That's why I was wondering, do we?
Yeah, if you want to make, that could be suspended, or the mayor can just say he's going to sign it to the council next meeting and it gets on the agenda. Is the next meeting Tuesday?
Yeah.
We've had a lot of meetings.
Miranda, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to read from my minutes that were posted and just approved for today. Ms. Cossey made a motion seconded by Mrs. Schramm to hire the Paul Martin Law Firm for the impeachment of Mayor Reif. Later on in the meeting, after the closed session, Ms. Cossey made a motion seconded by Ms. Schramm to have a special meeting tonight at 6:30 to discuss who to seek opinions from regarding the dismissal of Mr. Dagnan, to discuss special counsel possibilities to assist Mr. Daly, and should the council decide to table the second closed session from this evening's agenda, include that as well. She further asked to be able to add additional items to the agenda within the 24 hours of advance notice that is required. The only thing I was notified of was that you wanted to have council comments, which I left on there anyways to keep a little more organization. That's the only thing that was on for the agenda.
Okay, and that may be where the misunderstanding comes in, because there was a motion to hire the Paul Martin Law Firm.
But that was not asked to be put on the agenda because I don't know if you knew you'd have a contract by tonight. We heard nothing else besides you voted to hire them.
And I understand. Thank you, Miranda.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second to, oh,
go
Ms.
ahead.
Lees, go ahead.
I was just going to say, doing an impeachment process, I guess anything I had to say earlier, I guess I was hoping that we really could hit a restart button. But, you know, it comes from, you said earlier, Tiffany, that it comes from a place of knowledge of why we should be doing these proceedings and these actions, but no one's told me anything, no knowledge of any wrongdoing. Maybe somebody did something that you wouldn't have done that way, but what proof do we have to proceed this way? And why would we not want to work together and try to achieve a new goal and set guidelines together?
So we're referring now to the mayor?
Just
to the impeachment?
Yeah, because, well, we were talking about the pursuing of the lawyer, so I'm sorry if that was a switch of subject, but I just had that question along with all of this in the process.
Certainly, and I understand. And the lawyer that we have agreed to hire, when I was speaking with him, he said, make a list of the top 5 reasons. And we had, it's a chore to narrow it down to 5. And when I spoke with the attorney, you know, I mentioned several of the things, and he said, I mean, these are breaches that have been committed in public, in the pursuance of, or, you know, in the course of his office, and a lot of them here. I mean, number one, there's the violation of First Amendment rights. There's the violation of Sunshine Law, so federal law, state law, the violation of our own city charter and ordinances. I mean, Mr. Reif has tried to contract without the council. I mean, he's extended at least one offer letter that I have seen and have a copy of, offering compensation for termination in 6 times the amount of what's allowed by our ordinances. He unilaterally extended a contract to our previous city administrator, who's already been voted out by the city council, who for whatever reason is still seated up here. That in and of itself, his refusal to recognize that, is yet another violation of the law. So there have been a number, and those are just the ones that I'm rattling off the top of my head.
Where are the charges though, and where, I mean, we see this investigation and we see that they were free. Where are the charges supposedly of all of these supposed things, or is it a lot of things that have got hyped up and talked about? Where's the actual proof? You're telling me things, but where is the proof of that? And who was the group that you said we came up with a whole list? We had a hard time of narrowing it down to 5. Who was we?
So I reached out to a couple of council members. I also reached out to some other citizens to ask for opinions on things that are not opinions, but observations on things that have been done incorrectly. So when I say we, I did reach out to other people, learned counsel. We have a lot of attorneys, we have a lot of judges that watch this, and they are much more expert in municipal law than I am, and so I've reached out to them to get their observations of things that have been illegal. But in terms of where is the proof, I mean, it's all been here in the city council in public. I mean, the violation of the First Amendment rights, you know, part of it is, you know, gaveling down Mr. Putnam not once but twice in council. I understand there's an interpretation on the table that people don't have free expression, you know, that they're limited on what they can say, but I think you'll find that there's other case law out there that contradicts that. So we have violation of First Amendment rights. We have violation of the Sunshine Law. On June 15th, the mayor called a meeting in violation of the Sunshine Law. You cannot have a closed meeting to discuss a board. That has to be open. Additionally, there was an emergency meeting. That meeting was called as an emergency meeting with less than 24 hours notice. The law says that you have to get the consent of all council members to do that. No, well, I won't say no council members. were ever asked for consent, but I can tell you not all of them were. I know at least two, possibly, and I think maybe one other person when we were talking that was on the council said that they were not asked for consent. But I can tell you I was never asked for consent. I can tell you unequivocally that another one was not asked for consent. So there were two violations of state law there. Also, we repeatedly violated sunshine law. There are many times when I've called City Hall and I have said, I believe that the expected attendance is going to be in excess of what we can accommodate. The sunshine law requires that you have a space large enough to accommodate everyone who's reasonably expected to attend. They refused to move the meeting, and in one instance, when we were over capacity and several people had been turned away, there was a motion on the table to I'm losing the word there, but to move the meeting to a different date so that we could move it to the Carthage Water and Electric Community Room so that everybody who was reasonably expected to attend could attend. The mayor was the tie-breaking vote, and he voted not to do it on that date. So he willfully and in a public forum broke the law there. Again, it's the contract that was extended to Mr. Dagnan. You cannot, a mayor cannot contract without consent of the city council. While they voted to hire Mr. Dagnan, they did not see all of the terms of that contract, including the provision in that contract that violated our own city ordinance. So, I mean, when you're asking for proof, these are the things. I have a copy of the contract. I'm happy to show you.
But that still brings down all of these things you're saying. Why have they not been taken to a higher power and investigated and found guilty of? I don't understand why. Why? I just want to know why, because you're telling me all these reasons, but why wasn't it taken higher?
Well,
I mean, this one, obviously, we know what it said today that we received. So I still see no proof.
Right, but, well, so once again, I mean, you can actually look back and watch prior council videos, or like I said, I've got the copy of the contract. I'm happy to show you. I can produce proof, or you can view proof from some of the prior city council meetings. But in terms of why wasn't it taken to a higher power, I think that might be where there's a disconnect. So the impeachment process is the higher power. This is where the city council sets out a bill of a bill of impeachment, and then at that time it's investigated. Generally, the wisest thing to do is to have an attorney investigate that, an outside third-party attorney investigate that, and then they will also advise the council on whether or not they believe that those charges rise to the level of impeachment. If they find that they do, then the impeachment process begins, and the city council then is the one that proceeds with the impeachment. They oversee the impeachment hearing, and they listen to all of the evidence, and at that point they determine whether the charges that were brought do in fact warrant impeachment. But that's the higher power. That's how that's
Charges have been brought?
That's yeah. So
by what you're doing with the impeachment is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes, the charges are in the articles of impeachment.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I do just want to get this on the record again, talking to MML. Articles of impeachment, because the mayor is a public official, the charges against him must be discussed publicly, not privately among council members. You guys must debate it out in council since he's a public official. Sounds like you already have the 5, and that's okay, but he cannot be, I mean, those can't be the articles of impeachment until you all discuss them and agree with them. Again, according to what I'm told, I don't want to argue with anyone. I'm just saying, for the record, that is what I was told. You guys had to discuss them out loud, not in a private meeting.
Well, I'm not certain where you're getting you already have the 5, but you are right. Before we can move forward with the articles of impeachment, the city council has to agree that those are the charges that they want the attorney to investigate.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to,
Is there a way to avoid the motion on the table at the moment with what you mentioned, Tracy, as far as having the bill read twice on Tuesday evening?
You can do, as they say, suspend the rules and have the second reading. We have to put emergency language in the council bill, and that allows the council to have the second reading in the same night.
Does, does that accomplish what you're asking, Ms. Cussy?
Well, I'm just asking that if we can't do it tonight, that it be put on the agenda for Tuesday so that we can consider this contract.
But if we add that emergency verbiage, then we can have that opportunity to move forward that same evening to avoid in the interest of city staff's time, another council meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So do you still, you still want to consider the motion that's on the table or on the floor?
If we have a commitment from all persons required to, in the process, that this will be on the agenda for Tuesday night, then I'm happy to withdraw my motion.
All right, so the motion is withdrawn.
Do we have that commitment from all parties
Yeah,
involved?
if it's.
I just need a
there
copy of
in
the
time,
contract.
Yeah, I'll be happy to provide that to you after the, and I believe that there's a third party that you still recognize as the city administrator who hasn't acknowledged, has not committed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said I didn't work here anymore, but yes, I will
That's
be.
right, that's why I said the mayor has acknowledged you.
Yeah. Oh, don't interrupt me, please. I thought you said I didn't work here anymore. However, I am glad to make sure that I do not impede this, and I will do everything in my power to get it on the agenda on Tuesday.
Excellent, then motion withdrawn.
All right, thank you. So, do we,
So are we not discussing law firm options for the opinion on rate removal?
So not tonight. I would,
Okay.
since that was on the agenda, I'd like to make a motion that we move that to Tuesday night.
so is the motion to table item 2 until item 1? Okay, table item 1 until next Tuesday night?
Yes.
Tracy?
I'm just asking, what will the process be on Tuesday night? Is there going to be, are we putting out any bid specifications? I just want to make sure we're prepared.
So for the city administrator removal,
How are we going to authorize the three attorneys?
I want to say that the discussion was that we would seek recommendations on the MML, but if there's a bidding process that normally goes for that, I would be happy to undertake that and discuss that with you so that we can get that done appropriately.
We would just need like an RFP so that everybody knows exactly what questions being asked of them when they bid on whether they're willing to give those opinions or not.
Okay.
I don't know if RFP is the right term, but here's the questions, whatever it is.
And also, it's just gonna, I don't know if you consulted anyone, you might try and find out like how much it's going to cost, because according to our purchasing policy, depending on the amount, it kind of sets the standard, so whether we need an RFP to move forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Tracy.
All right, so I've got a motion to table item number 1 under new business until next Tuesday council meeting. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to table item 1 under new business until the regularly scheduled council meeting on next Tuesday. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any closing comments, Mr. Peterson? Oh,
Item 2.
I've got 2.
And it would be just an RFQ, I guess is the right term, since it's professional services, so it wouldn't have to be bid out. We would just ask for quotes from attorneys as to, here's the list of things we want you to do, what would be your quote, and then whatever you guys would have.
What was the third item?
It's the second. We were on the first one.
Oh, okay. So the
Discuss
sec-
special counsel options for city attorney assistance.
all right.
And that one I would also like to motion to table to, and also issue an apology to my other city council members. I was in charge of doing that. It's been an extremely busy few days between the last meeting and this one, and I have not had the opportunity to reach out to MML to get that list. So I would motion to table that one until Tuesday night as well.
Second, anyone?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to table item number 2 under new business until next Tuesday night's regularly scheduled council meeting. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, any closing comments, Mr. Peterson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to permit in this closing comments period any council member to speak freely for as long as they wish and make as many motions as they wish.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to allow unending closing comments and motions. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Me, nay.
All right, motion carries.
And furthermore, I just wanted to add that with respect to what I said in the council remarks period, I just also wanted to add to that in any matters relating to that familial relationship, twice so far I've once abstained from a vote and once removed myself from a discussion. So I just wanted to make sure that that will remain in that regard as well. I also wanted to add, just generally speaking, I haven't received any communication from any Ward 1 constituents, and that is my motivation and the reason I'm doing this, to represent Ward 1 regarding recent council decisions. But although he's not here tonight, I wanted to publicly acknowledge that Mr. Taylor very well may have, and I'm privileged to represent Ward 1 with him. So while he wasn't here tonight for me to discuss that with him, I look forward to doing so. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Leith?
I just still wish we could move forward in a different way, and that's all I can say. The cost of doing even the impeachment proceedings, what more cuts will we have to make to the city to be able to allow for this? I just wish, because I really think that everyone is willing to work together, and I think we could. And I heard I believe it's the first person that spoke, they said that they had lost faith in some of the council, but the thing is, they said that could be restored to them if we all work together as a team. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you for answering my questions.
All right, thank you.
No further
Ms.
comments tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Edge?
No further comments tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Snow?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to say that I do listen to my constituents. I have received comments from 6 constituents that told me that they are opposed to what is happening. And I have heard from well over 50 that have told me that they support what is happening and I should continue this line. So that's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Barlow? Ms. Cossey?
Yes, and my experience has been very similar to that of Mr. Snow's. I've spoken to actually one person who did not approve of what we were doing, and I've spoken to probably 20 people in the last several days who have said that this has needed to happen for quite some time.
All right, Ms. Schramm?
Nothing further tonight.
Is anyone going to make a motion for closed session, or are we
So,
going to table that?
Sorry, Your Honor. I would like to make a motion that we go into executive session, specifically closed session, according to section 610-021, subsection 14. The agenda includes the possibility of a vote to close part of the meeting to discuss records which are protected from disclosure by law. I would like to make a motion that we go into that closed session.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go into closed session according to the section outlined. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So, everyone, yeah.
Will you raise your hand?
Yeah,
yay?
I'm sorry.
The yeas?
If you were a yay, raise your hand. So everybody go down.
Everybody, yep.
There's no other business, so we're gonna do it.
All right, we're adjourned for now and going. See ya.